just felt like repping a little bit today. That's all. Just a little, just a light flex. We're only 6 months removed from it. It's been a while since we won one of these, so I figured let's rep the Tigers today. But it is EricRayweather back here, and in today's video, I want to kind of talk about yesterday, the information. We're talking about more Madden 21. Yes, it's crazy. A Madden 21 news video on a Madden channel, right? It's shocking. But, you know, we found out a lot yesterday, and today is kind of like the come down day, right? Yesterday we get hype, new info, we're seeing things for the first time. We're also getting angry because we're not seeing things that we wanted to see, that we were hoping to see, right? Gotta come down, kind of have a day to like really digest everything, look deeper into things, you know, found out a little bit more information, and just kind of even seeing what other people are saying about the game, taking their comments into consideration, seeing their concerns. And now let's have a discussion about Madden 21 as we know it so far. So this is something we always do. We always overreact to the first hype trailer, or, you know, some people call it the sizzle trailer. We always overreact, both good and bad. We get excited because it's our first, like, official look at anything for the next game, and we also get mad, like I said, because, like, oh, we're still seeing maybe some of the same problems, or we're not seeing things announced that we thought would be announced, right? And we do this every year, right? And the truth is, what we found out yesterday, most of that means nothing in the grand scheme. It's nothing, because most of those details aren't the important details that we're going to come to find out in the next month. The little details are what matter for the game more than anything. But even aside from that, you got to realize that what yesterday is, the first day of Madden news, that's back of the box day, meaning back of the box features. That's the day for the casual audience. Us as the hardcore, we still tune in because we want to see what's going on. That's the stuff there to sell the casual crowd. Oh, we got new celebrations. That's the Fortnite crowd. Oh, look at the back of the box. We got, I can dominate the pass rush. I can dominate the edge with Von Miller. That's what yesterday was for. Yesterday's stuff always does a disservice to us as the hardcore community, because we're never going to see what we want to see on that day. We're always going to kind of be let down, because we're going to base the whole game off of what we're seeing yesterday, when it's never the case. Look at all the other trailers. Last year, Madden 20 trailer was all about Bazooka, Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball. What did we get? The most run-dominant Madden of all freaking time. Game was nothing like the trailer. Remember a couple years ago, target passing was target. Everybody was like, oh, this is going to be so cheesy. We're going to be able to abuse it. People are going to abuse the AI with this so bad. Why would they put this in? Nobody used it. It wasn't even a practical feature. It didn't work very well. It wasn't implemented the best way, and then they took it out. No one used it, right? So it's like, yesterday's trailer means nothing. It's not even official real gameplay. You get a couple gameplay clips in it, but most of it's like, you know, they're piecing together shots, they're doing close-ups. You're not really getting an idea of what the game's going to be, all right? What we're going to find out in the coming weeks, that's what's important, right? When they do the individual deep dives like they did last year, right? So next week, June 25th, is the gameplay deep dive. That's an important day. Now that day, that's a day we overreact, both good or bad, because that's when you find out the little details. Hey, what did you do to address the overpowered run game? Hey, what did you do to address contains being an issue yet again? What did you do to address the fact that zones would blitz down at the QB when you rolled out with the quarterback, leaving corner routes wide open? You know, what else did you do? Did you add any other little gameplay features? I'm not even gonna say fix the blocking, but did you make the blocking better? I'm not even expecting it to be fixed, but just make it better, right? You know, what did you do about, you know, user defenders? User defenders were still very powerful last year, especially in your ultimate team mode. You know, did you do anything to help the speed boost and change the direction of user defenders so that they can't just cover, you know, it's 15 routes at once, right? June 25th, that's a big day. And then, of course, the week to follow that, they'll talk franchise, face of the franchise. The week to follow that, probably ultimate team. Those are the days that matter. Yesterday is not the game. We don't know crap. We just saw a little bit. They gave us a little taste. Now, what I will say is, you know, the fact that they didn't touch on franchise at all, obviously that's concerning. That means there's probably no big franchise feature, because if there was, I would consider that a back-of-the-box feature. Like last year when they had, you know, Scenario Engine Pro Bowl, those were noted on day one because they viewed that as a big deal, something that would sell the game. If there was new scouting or new assistant coaches, that's something that definitely goes on the back of the box. That's a bullet point that you would put in the blog yesterday to advertise the game. They didn't do that. So that doesn't mean franchise got a big zero. It's going to have some tweaks to it, maybe some little things, but it would appear that it got nothing significant that's going to move the needle. So that is still a problem, right? But we also didn't hear about MUT yesterday, and everybody says, well, that's all they care about is MUT. We heard zero about MUT yesterday, not a single thing. Superstar KO, their new baby, we heard zero about that yesterday. So those three big modes we heard nothing about. We'll find out in the coming weeks what they actually did with those modes, but it would appear that all three of those got nothing too significant, or else they would have mentioned it. The only mode that they really talked about was face of the franchise, and like I've been saying for weeks, they've made it obvious that's their biggest in terms of game mode, that's their biggest concern, is growing that. I personally think they want it to rival 2K's My Player. It's going to take them some years to get it to that point, because 2K's been building My Player since 2K10, so we're talking 11 years now. But they see how well they've monetized that. So in my opinion, I'm thinking the people up top, EA, they like money. They think that they can monetize that one day. But until that day comes, they have to build it out. And I think that might be why they're focused on that. You know, MUT already is a moneymaker. They don't really have to change it. Franchise is the exact opposite. It's not a moneymaker, so they don't have to change it, right? Like, I think that's how they look at it. The guys at the top, not the developers, the suits. Just my opinion. Don't know. But we're going to find all that out in the weeks to come. Now, adaptive AI was something we did see on the site yesterday, and a lot of people were happy, a lot of people were concerned. I'm one of the concerned people, because I think if this is for like human versus CPU, I've seen a lot of people say this and I agree. If it's human versus CPU, that's fine. For franchise mode, offline play, so that you can't just abuse the computer and you're trying to get a more realistic experience, I think it could be fine there. And head-to-head play, I think it's awful, because people are just going to figure out how to abuse it. If you think that that's going to stop the abuse instead of people just figuring out a way to abuse that too, then you don't play enough online video games, because that's what happens. People will figure out how to abuse it. And also, I don't think the computer should just make plays for you. The computer should be able to adapt. If you're playing the computer, yes, that's fine. But when you're on defense, you have to adjust and you have to put your guys in situations. Now, the problem with that is you can adjust and certain things don't stop. Like contains don't stop rolling out like it's supposed to, because the contains can be glitched out. But I would rather EA fix the contains than to make the computer AI players superhuman and just stop the rollout themselves. Fix the contain so that I, as the player, the human player, can say, hey, I'm putting my guy in a contain, play your damn contain, but I have to actually make the adjustment myself. The game's not making it for me, right? So that's what I think about adaptive AI. But again, I don't even think this is something to get excited about, because why would we expect them to do it right? They can't even get run commit right. Like they said they fixed run commit last year, and run commit still didn't work. You could still run for touchdowns on run commit, right? They've said they've fixed blocking for years, and blocking is still an issue. So why do we expect them to get adaptive AI right, which would be significantly more difficult? Now, maybe adaptive AI means that the players will be more risky, right? So a player that you might be able to beat somebody with a corner route over and over, but maybe if adaptive AI kicks in, maybe it makes that player only jump it sometimes, because if he jumps it every time, then we can abuse that, because we know, okay, I've run this corner route 3 times, now he's going to jump it, now I'm gonna fake it out some type of way. But if he only jumps it sometimes, because I feel like that's what true adaptive AI would be, because nobody's just gonna jump something every time. But if you make it like you're not sure when he's not gonna jump it, then that makes more sense. But again, I don't think EA would be able to do that correctly, because they still, like I said, can't even get things like run commit right. So that's just my opinion on that. Now, when you talk about the trailer, like we still saw bad pursuit in the trailer, that's obviously a concern. Even though we're really not seeing what the game truly looks like, we still saw those instances of bad pursuit a couple times in the trailer. That's still a concern. But also, I do want to note, pursuit might still be bad, honestly, because pursuit's been bad for years in Madden. It was the worst in 20, but it hasn't ever really been great. It's better some years than others, but pursuit very well may still be bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean the run game is going to be overpowered again. In fact, the rumor is that the run game's harder this year. Again, I don't know. None of us know. It's a rumor, right? But just because pursuit's bad doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have another run dominant year, because there's been years of bad pursuit in Madden, and the run has not been dominant every year. Some years the run's been awful. So they could have made running more difficult on offense, more skillful, maybe with the new stick skill system they put in or whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean the pursuit is fixed in itself. So that's just kind of something to put out there. One thing doesn't necessarily mean another. Now, phase of the franchise. This is something interesting. I want to read this from the website, so I'm not going to be looking at the camera. But of all the things we found out with phase of the franchise, right? You know, high school, a little bit more college, 40-yard dash, cool, okay. You know, a little bit better than last year pre-draft. But the main concern is once you get to the NFL. Last year it was boring. It was basic. It was like regular career mode, which was awful. No replayability. The last little piece here, when they talk about face of the franchise, it says when you finally enter the NFL, your career doesn't stop. You'll have a chance to experience different storylines each season as you make your case for the Hall of Fame. Now, they're saying different storylines each season. What they're selling me here is, in my mind, will they do this? I don't know, but this is what their words say, is that I'm going to get a different storyline each season. I want storylines like I'm getting in the prelude before I get to the NFL. I want a rookie storyline, something maybe based around being a rookie, and then, you know, you have your second year storyline. Third year, you know, maybe it's more of a veteran focused storyline. I don't know, but when you say I'm going to get different storylines each season, that's what I expect. But what's interesting here is they have no mention of the scenario engine, which was one of their biggest features last year. They talked about how it was going to change career mode and change franchise mode by having these branching storylines. And we saw that it wasn't really what they sold us. It was very basic. They did update it a little bit throughout the year to make it a little bit better, but it was still very basic. Wasn't really that great in my opinion. But I thought, okay, year one, a lot of things aren't that great in year one. Year two, build on it. Give us way more storylines, make them better, make them make more sense, because some of them didn't even make sense. They had to patch it because some of them were just like, they were making no sense. It was ridiculous, right? They didn't mention this at all. But think of the other new things they did last year. Abilities. They mentioned that yesterday. 50 new superstar and X Factors. Face of the franchise was new last year. Would they say, hey, we're building it out and it's better than ever this year? Scenario engine was new last year. No mention of it this year. So in my mind, that says they didn't do anything with it. And if you were going to use the scenario engine for your storylines, why wouldn't that be written right here? Why wouldn't it say experience? Let me read it again. Like, why wouldn't it say something like you'll have a chance to experience different storylines each season with the scenario engine that is back and better than ever with, you know, whatever, like however they word it or market it or try to sell it. They didn't mention that at all, which leads me to believe maybe it's still there. I don't think they would have took it out, but it doesn't sound like they did anything with it. Again, when they do the actual franchise deep dive, they'll touch on it, whether they did anything or didn't do anything with it. But what that tells me, again, I'm reading their words. So what that tells me is that we have storylines, but they're not using the scenario engine. They're going to be using the storylines that you get like in the prelude that are actual cutscenes, and they might branch a little bit, not much. Like you can make a decision here or there, and I think that can change it slightly. Hopefully maybe it changes it more this year, because you can change positions. Obviously, from what they wrote, it sounds like you're not going to be a starter in high school, so you're going to have to find a way to become the starter, and then you get to college, you can change to a couple other positions. So the storylines could obviously branch that way, which would make sense. But if you're saying I'm going to get different storylines each NFL season, I expect different storylines each NFL season. And if you're not mentioning the scenario engine with that, I'm assuming that you're giving me cinematic storylines, the storylines that actually look good, whereas before it was just these really basic scenario engine storylines that added almost nothing of replayability to the game. So I found that interesting. We'll find out, like I said, this next month is where we're finding out all the real info. What we found out yesterday, you know, I would say, yeah, we found out that Face of the Franchise is going to be better, which is cool, but we still didn't find out the real details. We found out the basic, like the early marketing details. Like I said, we don't really know about what these storylines mean yet. And the only other thing I think yesterday that was really important was like them saying how like the tackling and the reaching the ball out, like the whole scope of like the awareness of where you are on field. The defenders are going to be more aware in their tackles, and the ball carriers are going to be more aware. That I think is actually a big gameplay change. It's a small change, but it makes a big difference because awareness is important, and we haven't got that in Madden in a very long time. So, but again, we don't know how good it's going to be until we play the game, because it can look good and they can sell it. They can sell anything. They can make it sound awesome. They've done this a lot, but when we get the game a lot of times, some of those things don't play out that way. So I guess what today's video is basically about is just diving a little deeper, just telling you this is what you should be concerned about. Yesterday in the grand scheme is really nothing. The real news and where EA is really going to have to show and prove is over the next 2 months. And so if you don't want to miss that, you better subscribe and turn the noties on, because I'm going to be here to break it down, the good, the bad, and the ugly, give my honest opinions on it, and tell you what you really need to know about the game, not just what EA is going to try to sell you. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will see you guys next time.